Bro. First and foremost, the videos of you at the house made my day. So thank you for sending this. I appreciate that. Um, Quick recap in those videos. I think you're right though. I think you're moving a lot better. I'd be curious as far as like the lower body. I'd be really curious to see your your hip like actual movement potential capacity. Like what do you own in just like everyday life? Because I've kind of on this kick right now of how the body protects against limited capacity due to potential breakdowns or injuries occurring. So the body, being as smart as it is, protects against that movement. Because I noticed in the drills, and again, I know you're in your house and you're not even going close to full speed. You're not even throwing a ball, but I just noticed that the rear hip internal rotation was occurring pretty early, which was leading to the lead leg touching down a bit early. But then when I watched this video, um, it cleans up. So I think it's more of a kind of a full speed thing. So basically, what I was seeing was the rear leg. So this trail hip was internally rotating pretty early, and then this front foot was touching down early. But just from this angle, I kind of can tell that you have a pretty good amount of capacity there. Like I said, I'm on a big kick right now of like the lower half mechanics and how that like how we can optimize that. I have a video here. I wish it wasn't so small, but like this is a video here of Lance McCullers, and just notice how internal rotation of the trail hip is not occurring until it 100% like needs to occur, and then that's when external rotation happens, internal rotation of the back leg, and then the external rotation of the front hip. But just see how that sequencing of those knees, like they're working simultaneous. That's like a huge kick that I'm on, and just see how he maximizes that internal rotation capacity, like that knee's almost touching the ground. So now that energy is producing linear towards home plate. That's again, I'm on this huge kick, and now not everyone's going to move that way, but it's just something that I'm super like into right now. So I think the direction, and side note, I got the new AirPod things, and the noise canceling deal is unreal. I can barely hear myself talk. Anyways, I think the direction that I want to take us in this next month, I think, is going to be more arm path simplification targeted. Because if you're anything like me, aka athlete, yikes. I think the arm path and the way that the arm path moves and operates will better equip the lower body to move more efficiently. So I know I mentioned it. I have your screen, your original screen right here, and I remember mentioning that you have, aside from all of the lower body stuff and the heel disconnection, the ankle dorsiflexion, all that, you had a early arm raise. Remember how I kind of mentioned that, and I was going to leave it alone, but essentially what I like about or the sorry the misinterpretation of when I teach guys about like early arm raise is the whole dynamic of, well, aren't we supposed to get our arm out on time and have it more, have more time for us to get into positions? Absolutely. But you see a lot of guys that struggle with, and I'm not saying you're in this category because obviously you don't struggle with velocity, but there's a lot of power output to be had if we can delay that arm into that exact moment in which our hips are then internally rotating. So if you think about it in the kinetic sequence, so the ground force from the backside is being held, right? So this is kind of that clip, and I know you can't see the arm in this clip, but essentially when he descends, right? So when he enters his drive phase, there's a moment in which that drive leg is stalling, which is that holding of that force, right? So that's that drive leg stability we talk about. And then notice how it's a delay in hip rotation, but it's a delay in the sense of the arm is also delaying. So as soon as it comes time for that arm to now come up, that's when the timing of that internal rotation and the hand then getting up. So like if you can picture, I don't even know what you would picture, but just the kinetic sequencing of everything kind of going up the chain and coming through the fingertips as it begins time to now go into ball release. So with you, and again, I know it's flat ground, and you're even throwing a curveball here, so it could be different. You'll have to self-assess that on your own, but just notice how many frames before, like, so for example, this is like the position. I know you're a little obtuse elbow right here, but the position of elbow below the shoulder, hand above the elbow and the shoulder, that kind of what I would call like that power position. That's the position we kind of want to be in with a 45 degree as soon as our front foot touches down. So you'll kind of notice you're like 3, 4, 5, 6, so 6 frames ahead of that. So I think, and this is why I said I think the direction that I want to take us is going to be more, how can we get that arm path almost simplified in terms. I have a package outlined called arm path simplification because I think a lot of guys mistime the sequence. And again, I'm kind of just throwing stuff up against the wall right here and seeing how your body essentially responds. But that right there, that up here, like that hand up here, you're fully like ready, right? So what could potentially be happening with you is that now your arm and your trunk have to generate more energy, kind of segmented from the lower half energy. So when you hear like the terminology, oh, you're throwing all arm, I think this could be something that goes hand in hand with that, because you're missing the window of kinetic sequencing in a way. But at the same time, I struggle because you're on flat ground and you're throwing a curveball. So I'm not 100% sure that that's it. I think that's the direction I want to take, though. Let me know your thoughts on that, and then we can program a ton of stuff that I have on essentially delaying the arm. Remember, because I have it written down when I talked about Hader and the comparison that I gave you, how he delays that arm, which then creates that whip out front, because then the arm swings up while hips rotate, and then all of it's going boom. That's like, you look at the commonality, right, of among a ton of guys that have extremely high power output, and that's kind of the commonality that we see across the board is just hold force, there's that delay, now the arm comes up and swings in turn with full hip internal rotation. So you're going to notice internal rotation and then retraction kind of occurring at the same time. Boom, there it is. And then notice how he's touched down. So that's, it's tough, right? Because it's like, you can't, I struggle with this because it's not necessarily something that you can teach. I think a lot of it has to do with just natural athleticism. But so this 3 frame sequence. So 1, 2, 3. That is what I'm super passionate about, because you're generating so much whip with your arm, because you're almost tricking the arm's like tricking the body in the sense of like, or the body's tricking the arm saying, hey, we have to speed up as fast as we can now, because we're going to get into a pattern of being hurt if we don't speed up, right? Because we don't want to land and then be down, right? We talk about that inverted W. So it's like the body's way of almost tricking the arm. I did a breakdown on Nate Pearson about how he kind of delays that arm separation, that hand separation, to almost trick himself into then speeding up that arm from this point to this point. Just watch how quick Kershaw gets from down, right, to up and then rotate. So like that sequencing of everything occurring at once, you're just maximizing that energy plane. I know I threw a bunch of stuff at you, man, but I want to get your thoughts on that, because you're a pro guy, you're advanced, like your concepts and all that stuff too. So I want to get your thoughts and see if we can 69, and if we can get a pretty good understanding. But like I said, maybe it's something that we can do with delaying hand separation, And I know we talked about before how that arm path is long, and long is not necessarily good or bad. Short isn't necessarily good or bad, but I'm in the business of really simplifying the arm path. And this is something that I think could fall into the inconsistency pattern too, which you have a long glove side and then essentially a 90. So you're fighting this kind of inconsistent equal opposite thing, when in reality you saw, like with Kershaw, the better we sequence, like the more efficient the biomechanics of the way that our arms are supposed to move through time and space. So it's the same concept with like the hip internal rotation and external rotation that you saw with McCullers. And again, I apologize, I'm throwing a ton of stuff at you, but I like this because I'm dealing usually with like high schooler kids all day, and I can't talk about this. But so you saw with it, like the biomechanics of how the hips work, like one's going to go internally rotate while the other, or one's going to go externally rotate while the other one has to internally rotate, and you have that space and that separation that you're creating, and they're working like equal opposite, right? It's kind of the same with our arms. Biomechanically, we're going to sync up if we can be here at some point and here at some point, right? And then boom, boom, right? So now we're able to pull into that scap with both and then launch from that. Again, I know I threw a lot at you, but I think that's the direction I want to go, as far as like kind of playing around with some stuff with the arm path and the arm swing. And maybe again, who knows, right? Like that's what happened with me, is as soon as I cleaned everything up here, like my legs naturally just, my lower body naturally synced up. So yeah, man, that's what I got for you. Let me know your thoughts, and then we'll create a nice little program that you can follow, and we'll go back and forth on stuff. So I'm excited, man. Let me know what you think.